When the U.S. federal government failed the people of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, Americans were not upset enough. And now it seems we've become accustomed to it. The suspicious fires in California and Hawaii continue to go ignored. Thanks to the help of their neighbors, the victims of Hurricane Helene are being looked after, and they can still use our help. According to independent reports, FEMA hasn't been seen helping anyone. And we now know that this is because they have been busy building camps in the area. Camps big enough to house 700 FEMA employees.
Yes. But we were just wondering what it is y'all are doing, and because FEMA's had, they said they were pulling out because of militia and stuff, which that was debunked. So we just want to get the truth out because people are kind of like all over the place.
Understood. Yes. Yes, definitely understandable. We are definitely not pulling out. We are actually building this for our responders, for FEMA responders, other federal agencies. We have several of these sites around the area to help volunteer agencies as well that need lodging, that are coming in to help the survivors in the local area. So that's what this is being stood up for.
So this will be for the folks that have lost everything, they need a place to stay, kind of thing.
This is for the responders that are helping those folks. We are building these to stay out of the local hotels, so that the survivors have the ability to stay in the local hotels.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Now, is there money being provided to the survivors to accommodate hotel, or?
Yes, there is. That is not my area. That's our individual assistance and the whole other side of FEMA. Our focus is really on this side to try to do the back end support for the operation.
And so how many responders will you house here, and how long do you think your response will be?
We're building this to come up to 700 people. And right now, how long it's going to be, we are unsure. It's a really unknown number for us at this point.
They're going to be there long enough to require tornado shelters.
Tornado shelters, yes.
Are you all expecting tornadoes here?
We are not expecting tornadoes. Part of the package that goes out is to ensure that all the responders are safe. And there's nowhere for people to take cover here. So it's just part of the operation that goes out.
And they are building at least 2 more just like it.
Are you building another camp like this somewhere in North Carolina?
We do have another one. We actually have one in Flat Rock.
In Flat Rock,
yes. And then we're putting another one up in Wilkes County.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yep. So we are trying to ensure that there is coverage in the areas that were most heavily damaged.
Why they are building these camps is yet to be discovered. Many are suggesting it's all part of a land grab for minerals. But whatever it is, it does not look like help.
FEMA showed up and spent a lot of taxpayer dollars. I wish I had a number for you. I'm just going to guess 50 million plus to provide a space for their workers to exist, to help out sometime in the future. And that's what our federal government does. It spends money. As somebody said in the comments, they're a self-licking ice cream cone. They exist for themselves in and of themselves. What could $50 million do for this area? How many generators could you purchase with $50 million to help out those who need it? And that's what I'm talking about. Everything that's come into this area has been the goodwill of the citizens of this nation, the volunteers, the people that are donating clothes and food and money, so many things to help out. And that's because you, the citizens, are doing that, not the federal government.
The federal government may be run by parasites and thieves, but the people have come together to offer help.
Many people who showed up said, I had to do something. God put it in my heart. I had to come do something, and they wanted to help. And they've been able to put them to work, and they've organized it like a way I've never seen anything before in my life. I can't really speak to the FEMA part very much, but I do know that the local emergency managements have done an astounding job.
And we can still help. There are wells to be dug to provide people with water at GoFundMe, Western North Carolina Water Well Fund. And the Truth About Cancer have a Helene Relief fundraiser connected to people that are there and responding to people's needs. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Well, Well, hello there. Glad you guys made it. It's Doug Diamond. You're here for another Diamond Report Live, and we are going to take a look at the news tonight. It is 10:06 p.m. on October 27th, 2024. It's the last Sunday of the month. So, we will take a look at the news, see what's going on in the world out there, and my guess is it's not any better than last week. Hope you guys have had a good week, though, and yeah, how about that report? I thought that was a good one. There's some interesting little facts coming out from the whole Helene and devastation in North Carolina and the FEMA camps. Wow. So, yeah. Hello and welcome to everybody. Seeing lots of familiar faces again in chat on YouTube, and we've got chat going on Rumble as well. We're live streaming to two platforms tonight, just like normal. Rumble and YouTube. So it's the Diamond Disc channel on Rumble. If you happen to be on Rumble, go ahead and go over there and subscribe if you don't mind. I certainly would appreciate that. Totally free. All right, let's take a look at the news. Got quite a bit to talk about tonight, as usual. All right, battle damage revealed in Iran. First story I've got pulled up is on Hal's website, HalTurnerRadioShow.com, and I thought this one was kind of interesting just to see, what all has been hit here by, yet again, Israel doing the dirty work. Satellite imagery from Iran reveals a crucial impact on Iranian weapons making ability. Before and after images below show that the Israeli attack did achieve a very significant result. This is in Parchin, Iran. It's a rocket motor casting facility. As part of that facility, there are buildings that mix solid rocket fuel. 3 of those buildings in a nearby storage warehouse were demonstrably struck by Israeli missiles, as shown in the before and after imagery below. So here's an image of the entire facility before the attack, and then post-attack. Crisper satellite image of the facility with labeling showing what was hit. Israeli airstrike damage to this rocket motor casting facility. Image from 10/26, so yesterday. Destroyed mixing buildings right there. Wider area view including destroyed warehouse. So you can see the Israelis are hard at work blowing up other countries. I know that's what they love to do, and doesn't seem to be any stopping them at this point. So, as you'll see, I think as we move forward tonight, we are indeed already in World War III. It's just a question of, will it affect us here in our home country? My guess is it probably will at some point. And, yeah, we'll see how things play out. But there's quite a bit on here on this particular article. I thought it was an interesting one. So feel free to look at that if you want to. And then the other one I have pulled up from Hal's site. CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, which is the biggest bank in the country, says, you know what? World War III has already begun. Jamie Dimon, no relation. It's not Diamond. Anyway, it's Dimon, D-I-M-O-N. The economic outlook is teeny compared to the geopolitical situation we face. J.P. Morgan Chase and Company chief executive said Thursday that nuclear proliferation is the biggest risk mankind faces, even ahead of climate change. I know you're worried. We run scenarios that would shock you, the banker warned. He lamented the wars in Ukraine and the Middle East and the growing cooperation between the U.S. adversaries. They are clearly talking about dismantling the system set in place by the U.S. and its allies after World War II, which Dimon credits as spawning an era of unprecedented global economic growth, especially his own bank account, I'm sure. The risk is extraordinary, he said. World War III has already begun. You already have battles on the ground being coordinated in multiple countries. Yeah, and the U.S. is quarterbacking much of it, unfortunately, because we have the most insane leadership in the world, and no one even knows who the leadership is. That's what's amazing. Because it's certainly not Biden. It's certainly not Harris. Make the argument, I suppose, that it's Obama and company, but I tend to think it's the deep state, also known as the council, which we've talked about that before. I think I've shown their faces on here before even. But yeah, it's definitely a hybrid of people that are unelected bureaucrats that are in charge of things. And unfortunately, they're in charge of making sure we all die as soon as possible. So they might get their wish, unfortunately. We'll see how it all goes. We know that God is in control. That's what matters. God is in control. Found this and thought it was interesting. Needtoknow.news had just added this to the website. Plan of action for the U.S. Now, this cartoon was in the Chicago Tribune in 1934. Plan of action for the U.S. Spend, spend, spend under the guise of recovery. Bust the government. Blame the capitalists for the failure. Junk the Constitution and declare a dictatorship. 1934. So only, 90 years ago? Pretty much spot on for today, too. Amazing. FDIC seizes new bank with 66 new banks on warning watch list. So I think the banking collapse is in slow motion collapse. At this point, anyway. We know where they're trying to take us, into the one world government with a one world currency. And that's what the Great Reset's all about, as you all know. All right, it says Oklahoma First National Bank of Lindsay was seized by the FDIC last Friday, citing that the bank had false and deceptive records. FDIC only has $129 billion in reserves to cover $10 trillion in insured deposits. There's an additional $7 trillion in deposits that are over $250,000 that are not insured. The Bank Term Funding Program expired in March 2024, and banks have 1 year to pay back loans. However, commercial real estate that has dropped in value. Financial expert John Williams believes that regional banks will fail and will be consolidated in the next 6 months. He said that 1804 banks were loaned, I think he means 1,804 banks were loaned $165 billion and must repay the money. He predicted that bad loans will be bought by Blackstone-type companies that will convert commercial spaces into residential living spaces. You know, it's always good to hear different perspectives on what's going on and how things may collapse and how quickly things may collapse, but I think everyone's agreeing that they are going to collapse. The U.S. is, $35 trillion in debt at this point? There is no fixing that. All right, Ron Paul says, why should we fight wars for Ukraine and Israel? Oh, I know. Call on me. I think we shouldn't. How about you guys? Ron Paul explains the insanity of the U.S. supporting foreign countries in wars that serve zero interest to the American people. Both Ukraine and Israel are incapable of winning wars that they are escalating, and their leaders are desperately trying to drag the U.S. into their wars. I think it's too late. Zelensky is threatening to obtain nuclear weapons to fight Russia. Israel is using U.S. troops to operate air weapons that place them in the line of fire, which, if U.S. soldiers were killed, would trigger U.S. going to war with Iran. I don't know about that. I think they're perfectly willing to sacrifice our soldiers, but they are clearly doing some of the satellite, reconnaissance and some of the highly technical stuff that the Ukrainian military, what's left of them, cannot possibly do. So, I don't know. We'll see how things actually transpire with the Ukraine and NATO issue with Russia. But it's not looking good, that's for sure. It says Washington's answer should be simple but firm. No more weapons, no more money. You're on your own. Make peace. Yeah, right. That's a good one. There's your joke for the night. That is not going to happen. It's called the military-industrial complex for a reason. They want their wars, which is why they don't want Trump in there. He's saying he's going to make sure we're not involved in any of these wars. It's a good reason to try and kill him. Oh, wait. I think that's happened a couple times. Attempts, anyway. So, it says when you take on the role of the world's policeman, don't be surprised when countries who cannot fight their own wars call 911. Yeah. So, they wouldn't be doing these things that they're doing, I think, if Big Brother U.S. wasn't there to bail them out. That seems to be the way things are unrolling at this point. Michigan has 500,000 more voter registrations than voters. State says it's not an issue, though. The GOP disagrees. Yeah, they might disagree, but they're probably not going to do anything about it. Let's see what it says. Michigan is a battleground state. The state currently has 8.4 million registered voters. according to the latest records obtained by Bridge, Michigan, nearly 500,000 more than the number of people in the state who are old enough to vote. Republicans have sued, claiming bloated rolls could lead to fraud. It might lead to fraud. Maybe. Do you think that that's pretty much the entire reason that they're doing what they're doing? Michigan plans to remove over 600,000 inactive voters by 2027. Sure, well, they'll get around to it. But the state's rolls remain among the nation's most inflated. In 2020, CCTV recorded footage of a van dropping off tens of thousands of ballots at 3 a.m. with no poll watchers. Biden's votes spiked up overnight. Yeah, they call that vote Viagra. Do you guys know that? Vote Viagra, where you see, the trend going upwards, and then it just goes boop, straight up, and then even further up. That's vote Viagra, and look for that to happen this year, although it seems to be happening on the front end with absentee ballots. It seems to be happening already, before election days even happened in this country. All right, it says Michigan's Democrat Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson said that the election results will not be known until after Election Day. Yeah, so I think several of the swing states are saying that because I think personally that if Kamala was way ahead, or Kamala, or however you say her name, no one seems to know, including herself. If she was ahead, I think they would announce it right away on Election Day that she won. Even if they felt confident about rigging the vote and cheating enough that they could declare her the winner that night. So obviously they're not confident on whether or not they can cheat enough to make her the winner. So therefore, if it's Trump that's going to be the winner, quote unquote, then they'll drag it out. They'll drag it out and delay and obfuscate and try and get people to a point where they're going to start getting a little worried and upset about things, and then they'll lower the boom. This is just my opinion, but we have some pretty good resources that say the exact same things. I won't mention any names, but you've probably heard of them, who are saying things like, they'll stretch it out as long as possible, and they will try and basically start a civil war in this country. And even if the people who are the Trump supporters aren't fighting back, they're going to use intelligence agencies like the CIA and or the FBI to perhaps start something like a truck bomb situation, like maybe a federal building or maybe a black church or maybe who knows what, and then blame MAGA and or blame Iran. So they can go a number of different ways with this thing, part of which would be simply to try and, they've done this DOD thing recently where they're saying it's okay to start killing Americans, and we're going to look at that a little closer again tonight, although we looked at that the last couple weeks. It's just amazing the way things are going. They're okaying the killing of American citizens, so they didn't do that by happenstance at this particular time. There's a reason for that. So we'll see how things work out. We don't have too many more days to wait until the real chaos seems to have been planned for us. So anyway, that article was on needtoknow.news about the Michigan vote totals. And then again, voters in Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee report voting machines flipping their selections. I think I mentioned this last week as well. Voters in Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee are reporting on numerous voting machine irregularities that are flipping their vote choices. Congresswoman Green urged voters to check their ballots after she said that Dominion machines were flipping votes in Georgia. It's not just Dominion. I think it's any and all voting machines have been set up to do that. My guess is, for the most part, it's going to be flipping votes one direction, not so much the other direction, if you know what I mean. So, check your ballots. If you're planning to vote, definitely make sure you check your ballots. I think that's good advice. It is anyway, but you have quite a few states out there who won't even ID people, illegals or non-illegals. They won't even ask for IDs at this point, or you don't have to prove who you are, and you can just go vote. So even though you need an ID to do absolutely anything else, and they wanted to make sure that we had IDs after we were described and stuff too. Remember that? Well, we don't have to have one to vote, especially if your skin color is a certain color. So anyway, yeah, we'll see how things play out with the whole election day thing. I think it's going to be an absolute mess, if you ask me. All right, then the last article on needtoknow.news, Rudy Giuliani must give his house and his watches to plaintiffs in bizarre defamation ruling. Thought this was a weird one. But again, we're looking at lawfare. It's people that are at the top, that are on the right in particular, who are being subjected to this. I'm not a fan of Giuliani, by the way, but I think this is very unfair. So this is what this particular article says. Judge Louis Lehman ordered former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani to transfer his Manhattan apartment to a receivership set up for 2 election workers that he accused of election fraud. Giuliani accused Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss of committing election fraud as ballot counters in Fulton County, Georgia. He circulated an edited clip of security footage. Well, an edited clip doesn't mean you can edit something to make it look like they're doing something that they're not already doing. You know what I mean? An edited clip of security footage that he claimed showed them passing USB drives. Moss and Freeman sued for defamation, and in December, a Washington, D.C. jury awarded them $148 million. And then it says, according to this embedded tweet here, and the uncapped damages in this style of purely political defamation lawfare is fast becoming the single most insane judicial assassination trick in the book. $1.5 billion from AJ, the name that we can't mention. $800 million from Fox, $90 million from Trump, and $150 million, or nearly $150 million, from Giuliani. He's been ordered to hand over his Manhattan apartment, cash, watches, and other assets to 2 Georgia election workers he allegedly defamed. So how about that? I didn't realize that a judge could do that. Of course, they can't do it. It's completely illegal, but they do it anyway. So imagine if it was the other side who was being targeted like this. I think there would be a lot of outcries. It would be on every mainstream media outlet anywhere. But nope, total silence because it's okay when they do it. All right, technocracy.news, top 3 articles I have pulled up. The deep state's technocratic plot to destabilize the nation is working. Marxist ideology is a wanton destroyer. No problem for technocrats who are ready to build back better. In fact, technocracy has been gunning for capitalism ever since the Great Depression. Marxists cannot see the technocrat bus that is about to overrun them all. Useful idiots, all of them. America has been on the chopping block as the last remaining obstacle standing in the way of global technocratic domination. So that is one of the articles on technocracy.news. The tragic consequences of AI chatbots. A teenager trapped in a simulacra led to his suicide. The story underscores my warnings. This is Patrick Wood from technocracy.news talking. The story underscores my warnings about AI causing a break with reality and its consequences. Psychosis is a severe mental condition in which thought and emotions are so affected that contact is lost with external reality, according to Oxford. The end state is simulacra, plunging the subject into an Alice in Wonderland freefall into oblivion. In the end, most of humanity will fall into this state. I don't know. That's certainly what they have planned for us. Not sure how far along it gets, but got a few articles from Revolver. So you guys see the big Trump interview on Rogan's show? Joe Rogan Trump interview drops. Reviews are in. Pure gold. We've got the highlights. I don't know about that. I did watch it, and I thought some of it was pretty good. Some of it was not that interesting. They went into a long, pretty detailed explanation about fighting, like what is it, UFC fighting or whatever, which is something I don't really care about, but those guys obviously love it. So that part of it I thought was kind of boring, but most of the rest of it was pretty good. Says the big moment's finally arrived. Trump has wrapped up his epic 3-hour interview with Rogan. I think they're going to do another one at some point. At least he said he was going to. Who knows? And it's safe to say that politics and the internet will never be the same. The two powerhouses took to TikTok right after giving everyone a quick hello world teaser, but whether they knew it or not, chances are that they did. This interview isn't going to break the internet. Isn't just going to break the internet. It's set to redefine U.S. politics and the media as we know it. So anyway, I guess he went on TikTok and said how they recorded their interview just the other day. I think it was maybe Friday. Right after the interview, the longest one Trump's ever done, he flew straight to Michigan and fired up a huge rally in Traverse City, which is Michael Moore's hometown. Naturally, he gave a shout out to Rogan, and the crowd went wild. So anyway, yeah, there's some clips embedded on the page here. The full interview, I think you can find it on YouTube, believe it or not. If not, I did link to an upload of it that is available on my Twitter page. And when we get there, I'll point you to it. But yeah, you can definitely find it on Twitter as well, the full interview. I think it was actually Owen Schroyer from InfoWars who posted the entire thing there. 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours, something like that. So it's pretty interesting, and it's a good conversation. And he did talk about inviting Kamala on as well. So she's been invited, although she's I think chickened out at this point. She would fall apart in a 3-hour conversation type interview. So I think it would be disastrous for her to do it. So I think her people have advised her not to, and I think that is what's happening. So anyway, but yeah, Trump certainly did do it, and I thought it turned out pretty well for the most part. After what went down last night, Sin City is definitely Trump country. I saw that headline and I'm like, I'm not sure that headline is exactly going to mean the way you think it means, but I get it. It says Trump went on campaign bender yesterday. It was one of those whirlwind days where he held back-to-back rallies and events, cranking up the energy level to 11 and delivering electrifying magical moments for voters. He fired up Arizona, then hit Nevada, where it's now official Las Vegas is Trump country. So I don't know about that, but that's what it says. There are a lot of people there that really would be happy with the no taxes on tips thing that he is talking about, that then Kamala tried to steal from him. But, you figure there's a lot of people in the services industry there, so it makes sense that Las Vegas and really Nevada as a whole would really like that. Even though, in my opinion, I don't think that the military-industrial complex can possibly let him get back in. Obviously, they've been trying to kill him the last few months and trying to destroy him politically, destroy him, financially, and everything else they can possibly do to keep him out of the presidency. So I just don't see how he gets in. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm gonna probably vote this time. I'm still thinking about it, kind of mulling it over, but I just don't see how beyond this election, no matter what happens, that there's ever another election in this country. I just don't see that happening. And even if there is, it would just be something that would be a joke and everybody would know it, because it's a communist country at this point. So at least if this election turns out the way I'm afraid it will. So anyway, here is some more info on this article on Revolver. There's some more clips of Trump doing the making the rounds in all the different cities lately that he's been visiting. In particular, this one's focused on Las Vegas. So anyway, kind of interesting. Yeah, we've talked about this crazy lady before. They've apparently yanked her off of the campaign trail for being too weird. Gwen Walls, yanked off campaign trail for being too weird. And you know how bad it must truly be if she's too weird. I mean, they're all too weird. So, yeah. Says, looks like Tampon Tim's bizarre wife got yanked off the campaign trail of all places in Maine. Word is it that she was all set to speak, but the powers that be decided to pull the plug for reasons unknown. However, given her past Karen-like antics on the trail, the rumor mill is in overdrive. Word on the street is that Gwen's scheduled speech was nixed because she's a cringe factory and is alienating men with her weird finger-wagging HR persona. She is super weird. Remember what I said before about, some of the psychological tests you can freely observe on people. Just a free little tip here is when people are talking to you and you can see the whites above their irises. So they're talking and their eyes are open so wide you can see the whites above their irises. That is a telltale sign of somebody who is psycho. And this woman, pretty much every time you see her talk, is exactly doing that same thing. So it says, it's no surprise we've seen her screeching speeches hit overdrive. At one point, she looked and sounded like the Wicked Witch of the West. So yes, she is very strange. I think I played a clip of her a couple weeks ago of when she was giving a press conference and she was singing. So that was lovely. This video of Tim Walz's wife going full psycho has 5.3 million views, 235,000 likes, and 50,000 comments on TikTok. The entire country is finding out how insane these people are. Yeah, it's not just her. I mean, she's married to Tim Walz, so yeah, they're all insane at that level. All right, and then this one, I thought this was. At first, I didn't really believe that this is who they're saying it is, but I guess it is. Macabre scene unfolds at a Harris rally when she gets a little too desperate for early votes. So you see this picture here of the guy on the stretcher. It looks like he's on the stretcher, and they're going to take him to the ER is what it looks like. But no, this is claiming that this is Jimmy Carter. I guess the Jimmy Carter. So here's what it says. It's safe to say that the split-screen video clip, this one, can be a deadly weapon in politics. It can make or break someone in seconds. What do we mean by that? Well, just look at Harris's recent event in Georgia. Harris learned the hard way that a split screen can take an already awkward and ghoulish situation and make it a whole lot worse. It all started when she was stumping for early votes. It's no secret that Democrats are in trouble. As it stands now, early voting is down, and that spells really bad news for Harris. See, I don't know that I totally agree with that. I've heard that it's up in some places as far as where the fraud is really uncontrollable. So, it says the dramatic rise in early voting has led many to think the election might be effectively over days or weeks before election day. The data thus far shows that won't be true, and the numbers aren't comforting for Democrats. Early voting is nowhere near what some people estimated. 4.2 million Americans have already cast their ballots. So yes, it's not election day anymore, it's election season. Because it's an entire season like fall. Because the way the Democrats have warped things at this point is they can just vote whenever they want, basically, and multiple times. So yeah, it's just a season now. Anyway, this is saying that while she was in Georgia, Kamala thought it'd be a great idea to bring Jimmy Carter and his early vote into the mix. The problem? Jimmy Carter, bless his heart, that's what we say in the South here, looks like he doesn't even know he's still alive at this point, and who can blame him? The poor guy's 100 years old and battling cancer that has spread to his brain. When his family wheeled him out recently as part of a PR stunt for Kamala, a lot of people felt really uncomfortable. Carter literally looked like he was on his deathbed. I thought maybe he already was dead. Or I didn't even know it was him, obviously. It doesn't look like him. Look at him. The whole stunt was very off-putting and seemed cruel and heartless, which of course it is. The Kamala campaign is planning to harvest Jimmy Carter's ballot today. Harvest, I like that. We were just talking about harvesting organs earlier too. Going to harvest Jimmy Carter's ballot today at the hospice facility where he's being kept. Someone in Carter's physical and mental state is unable to vote. He's nonverbal, can't move, and isn't even aware that he's alive. This is criminal and disgusting. There's no way that that poor man even knows who Kamala Harris is at that point, at this point, let alone that he was, quote, voting for her. So yeah, this is what the Harris campaign is now stooped to. So this is about as sick as it gets. Do you think they checked with him first? Jimmy Carter has no idea who Kamala Harris is. Yeah, I think he's doing good just to be able to breathe at this point, let alone vote. So yeah, it's not looking too good for old Harris there. But I guess, though, that she'll still win. What do you think? So look at this one. This was just uncovered, I guess, recently. This is on a site called Rediff News. Just being reported on here, but the headline says, "I am praying at the temple every day for Obama." This is an article from August 2008. 2008. San Francisco District Attorney Kamala Devi Harris. I had no idea that was her middle name. We'll come back to that. A Barack Obama campaign insider who also serves on influential policy-making committees of the Democrat National Committee and was one of the headliners of the only Indian American event at the Democrat National Convention in Denver, said her grandmother is her grandmother in Chennai, who scrupulously follows the campaign, had told her when she spoke to her on the phone before she left for the convention in Denver, "You let them know I am going to the temple every day and praying for Barack Obama. It's very exciting, and certainly my grandmother and our family members, not only in India, but in this country, are all very excited about the future of our country," she said. Now here's probably the most important part. Harris, also an appointed at-large delegate from California to the convention, said, "I was very proud to be one of the first elected in California to endorse Barack Obama. I supported him for the U.S. Senate, and he supported me in my race to become the first Indian American district attorney in the country." Lo and behold, she's not what she says she is. Shocker. Yes. So 2008, she was only concerned about she was only concerned about being the first Indian American district attorney in the country. Now, she's black. So yet again, Trump and many other people were right. Anyway, thought that was very interesting. And note her middle name. I had no idea that her middle name is Devi, which is devilishly close to being devil. Yeah, watch Candace Owens. I know. We've talked about that. We've talked about that at length. Candace has uncovered much of her family history. She's doing really good work. Yeah, Kamala Devi Devil Harris. And that got me thinking, okay, if her middle name is almost devil, what does Devi even mean? Because I had no idea. Well, according to the old Goog, says Devi is a Sanskrit word that means goddess, and is also a term used in Hinduism to refer to the supreme feminine divine power. Devi, Kamala, Hindu, goddess, Sanskrit. The supreme feminine divine power. That's what Devi means. That's her middle name. Literally. Okay. Revelation 17 says the woman on the beast. Then one of the 7 angels with the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits on many waters. The kings of the earth were immoral with her, and those who dwell on the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her immorality. And the angel carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness where I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. She held in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality, and on her forehead a mysterious name was written, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. Yep. And Kamala's middle name is Devi, which means Sanskrit, which is Sanskrit for goddess. Supreme feminine divine power. Folks, I think this, at least just looking at these couple little things that we looked at just now, sort of tells me that she is going to be the president, no matter what happens. Seriously bad news. That doesn't mean I wouldn't not vote. It doesn't mean I wouldn't, try to do the right thing. I've not really been a Trump supporter. I like a lot of what he's doing and a lot of what he says, but he does have a lot of problems. He's super pro-Israel, obviously. And by that, I don't mean the Israel of the Bible. I'm talking about the Israel that is now a created nation state, literally a straw man. It's something that portends to be what's talked about in the Bible, but it's not. Well, he's all for it and wants to do anything and everything to help that Israel, the fake Israel. And on top of that, he's the one that really pushed the original version of Smash Diva. So yes, there are some very dramatic and terrible problems with Donald Trump. However, I do think that his heart is in the right place. I do think that he really does want to make the country better. He's got RFK Jr. on his side now, which I think is huge. And looking at the Make America Healthy Again thing, I think is great. But the most important thing to me is, and the reason that I support Trump at this point in the whole process, is because he almost lost his life multiple times and God has spared it. I don't think it was faked. If you watch the Rogan podcast, I think it was at about an hour and I want to say 32 minutes. Don't quote me on that. It's well into the podcast. Joe asks him about his ear and he shows it in high definition. You can see it. It wasn't faked. There are scars on his ear. You can see it. Which is really great that he asked him that. I was afraid he was just going to kind of gloss over it and not ask him, but he did. And, it's what you would do if you were having a conversation with somebody and they were talking about, I was just in a car accident and what happened, and, and you show somebody your scars. Well, it was a very similar sort of discussion. He shows him his ear. It's real. It wasn't just a package of ketchup that he squirted all over himself or whatever crazy nonsense people have claimed. God literally spared his life. I'm going to try and honor God by doing what's right, even though to me I think there's literally no hope. There's no chance other than only with God could he be put in power. And even if he is put in power, he's not running to be Jesus. He's running to try and fix the country. So that is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't think, though, that looking at things like this, where old Devi here, maybe what's being talked about in Revelation 17, I think that it's not looking good. So I just wanted to let you guys know about all that stuff that I've found here, just looking at things tonight. When I found out what her middle name was, I'd not heard that before. Devi. Devil. Might as well be. All right, Liberty Beacon. Ex-Vatican ambassador calls Kamala an infernal monster who obeys Satan. How about that picture? I don't think Satan looks like that, by the way. I don't know how you guys picture Satan, but I don't picture him like that at all. I think he's probably still more like Lucifer versus like this. Maybe he wants to look like this. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's why AI thinks of him, though. That's interesting. Ex-Vatican ambassador calls Kamala an infernal monster who obeys Satan. Well, her middle name is Devil. Almost. Yep. Former Vatican Roman Catholic Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano endorsed Trump for president this week, urging that Kamala Harris represents an anti-Catholic, anti-Christian, and anti-human vision of society. Vigano, who was the Vatican's ambassador to the U.S. from 2011 to 16, writes in a letter to Catholics, the choice is between a conservative president who is paying with his very life for his fight against the deep state and an infernal monster who obeys Satan. Strong words. But I don't disagree. I think he's probably right on. So those are the article. Oh, that's one of the articles I have pulled up on the Liberty Beacon. The Awakening of Young American Jews, a documentary. And I watched the first little bit of it and thought it was really interesting. I will link to this in the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday, but you guys can find this if you want to look for it ahead of time. I thought it was a really good idea on giving people the truth about what's going on in Israel. It says, revealing a deepening generational divide over modern Jewish identity. Our weekly documentary, curated by the editorial team, says Episode 1, when two young American Jews raised to support Israel unconditionally witness the way Israel treats Palestinians, it changes their lives forever. Soon after, they would join a movement of young American Jews, campaigning to redefine Judaism's relationship with Israel and reveal a deepening generational divide over modern Jewish identity. They're calling this Israelism. Israelism. I like that. It's not really Judaism. It's not really the worship of anything biblical. It's Israelism. Kind of like scientism. Anyway, there's a whole video here. It's an hour and 20 minutes. That's embedded in this site called Israelism, the Awakening of Young American Jews. So, might be worth a watch. Educational factor there, I think. So, it's good. And then, RT.com, BRICS just dropped a manifesto for the New World Order. The 134 points adopted by the group's leaders in the document have potentially profound implications. So lots of people talking about BRICS right now. Rightfully so. Seems to be where most of the world is headed. Says this week's Kazan Declaration suggests that BRICS, in its expanded composition, is ready to open a new chapter in its history. Never before have such voluminous documents been adopted as a result of the group's summits. Moreover, the Kazan Declaration will be the subject of great interest in the world's political and academic circles, as well as the object of criticism by opponents of BRICS. For the first time, the group's unified vision of the current state of the international system is set out in detail. So it's talking about the agreement that was put forth over the last week or so. So, anyway, more info on RT here, and there's a couple more articles that are kind of running parallel to that. BRICS Summit Day 1 recap, deepening ties and collaboration to speed rise of multipolar world order. Isolated Russia, the first day of the 2024 BRICS Summit in Kazan, Russia, in one video. So if you want to watch a short little video about it, might be a good option there. BRICS Summit kicked off in Kazan, Russia on Tuesday last week. Here are the main events from the first day of this major international gathering. So yeah, and then apparently some of the currency was revealed, some of the actual paper currency. Hal Turner had an article about that on his site, I remember, from a few days ago. And then this is a second article on Sputnik. BRICS Summit Declaration is inflection point, redefining international politics. Here's why. BRICS bloc adopted the final declaration of its summit in Kazan on Wednesday. The document outlined the group's push to make bold reforms to global institutions, strengthen cooperation, and respond collectively to global crises. Sputnik asked leading Asia and Europe-based international relations experts for help decoding the declaration. So, that is all here if you want to take a look at this. It's pretty interesting. And who knows exactly what's going to happen with that and how it's going to unfold, but it is it's pretty wild the way things are unfolding. One world currency. Will it be this somehow? I don't know. It's very possible. I think they're currently calling it the unit, maybe, something like that, but it is at least partially backed by gold. Not 100%, but I think maybe, I want to say 60%. I forget if it's 60% or 40%, but it's partially backed by crypto and partially backed by gold. 60-40, but I forget the split. So anyway, pretty interesting, and again, we'll see how it all plays out. I thought this was really wild. Former Bolivian president survives an assassination attempt. Shots have been fired at Morales' car. Footage posted on his social media account has purportedly shown. Former Bolivian President Evo Morales has survived an assassination attempt. A video published on his Facebook page on Sunday suggests. So that was just earlier today. The politician was reportedly unharmed by the alleged attack, which reportedly did injure his driver. Yeah, and you can see that in the video here. I won't bother playing it because it's really mostly just screaming and people driving erratically. But you can watch it if you want. You can see clearly that there are several, I don't know how many, but several bullet holes in the windshield as it pans around. Well, I guess I can play it and I'll just kind of talk over it. Here, I'll mute it. All right, you can kind of see it. It wildly swings around because she's just holding her phone there. But there's the bullet holes right there, see? And somehow the driver has been, he's bleeding, but he's bleeding in the back of his neck. So figure that one out. I don't know how that would happen. Grazed by a bullet, perhaps from the side? I don't know. You can see it here in a second. According to Morales himself, some 14 shots were fired at the car. So, caption alleges that the former president was about to undertake his usual Sunday routine when his vehicle was intercepted by two cars in the central Bolivian town of Chinajota early in the morning. Four hooded gunmen emerged from the cars and opened fire on the vehicle. So, wow. But no one was killed, so they were either really bad shots, just like you see in the movies, or he wasn't supposed to die, I guess, at this time. So that was pretty weird. So another assassination attempt that was unsuccessful. And then West stealing billions from Russia, according to Russian minister. U.S. and the EU are making a historic mistake. You don't say. You don't say. It says the U.S. and EU have blocked an estimated $300 billion in assets belonging to the Russian central bank when the Ukraine conflict escalated in February 2022. More than two-thirds of the funds, around $213 billion, are being held at the Brussels-based clearinghouse Euroclear. They probably have their missile sights set on going right through the front windows of that building, I'm guessing. Whenever things really get kicked off. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Holocaust survivor demands Harris apologize to all victims of Hitler. Yeah, this is the new talking point. Trump is Hitler. They brought up that whole old story from years and years ago. That's all they have. They're just comparing him to Hitler. Says the Democratic presidential nominee's words were the worst thing he'd ever heard, the 94-year-old has said. Wow, he looks pretty good for 94. Jerry Wartsky, 94-year-old Holocaust survivor. Democrat presidential nominee Harris should apologize before all victims of the Third Reich for comparing her Republican rival Donald Trump to Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler. A Holocaust survivor has said in a video released by Trump's campaign. The clip, which was posted on social media on Friday, features Jerry Wartsky, a 94-year-old who had been a prisoner in the infamous Auschwitz concentration camp during the Second World War. Wartsky has spent most of his life in the U.S. working as a real estate investor. He is now an honorary president of the Israel Heritage Foundation, which describes itself as a bipartisan, pro-Israel NGO. Yeah, I don't really buy that, but it says, Hitler invaded Poland in 1939 when I was 9 years old. He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Harris will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes. For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I have ever heard in my 75 years of living in the U.S., he insisted. So, congratulations, Kamala Harris. You've topped the list. And who knows if she actually thought of it. I mean, she, like Mel Gibson said a few days ago, she literally has the brain power of a fence post. And that is insulting to fence posts because they serve a purpose. But yeah, I mean, she or her people have now topped this guy's list by calling Trump Hitler, which is about as ridiculous as it gets. And we'll look at that a little closer in some humorous detail here in a minute. All right. peoplesvoice.tv, the headlines on that site, at least on the homepage, on the front page. And then Harris, incandescent with rage as Trump leads popular vote for the first time. So who knows? I'm sure she is very enraged. Major study conclusively links cell phone use with brain cancer. Tell us something that we don't know, right? Trump says his biggest mistake was choosing the wrong people in his first term. And he did say that. They talked about that at length on the Rogan podcast. That was worth watching, I thought. And he called several people, including this dude. What's that guy's name? John. Gone blank on his name. Probably blocked it out. He called him an idiot. Thought that was pretty funny. Trump says he is serious about abolishing income tax. Yeah, he's serious, but he won't live very long if he tries that one, I'm pretty sure. RK Jr. tells FDA to pack its bags. Its war on public health is about to end. So good for him. And then the last article on this front page here, DiCaprio becomes latest Diddy party participant to endorse Kamala. I'm sure it's a coincidence. All the Diddy party attendees are all for Kamala. A couple articles I have pulled up on WNG.org. Virginia judge orders the state to keep voters registered. It means to keep the illegal voters registered is what it means. That's what they're talking about here. Virginia Governor Youngkin on Friday promised to appeal the decision as soon as possible. He argued that Virginia authorities cleaned the state's voter rolls of more than 1,500 voters who self-identified as non-citizens and presented documentation proving that they weren't allowed to vote. But this U.S. District Judge Patricia Giles earlier on Friday ordered Virginia to reinstate the voters because it took them off of the voter rolls less than 90 days before the election. And that judge was appointed by Joe Biden in 2021. And they must know how those 1,500 voters are going to vote. Yeah. So that's when you tell the federal judge to go pound sand, because the state has more power than the federal government. It always has. So you have to exercise your power, Governor. You have the power to stop them. Tell the judge to get lost. Because the state is superior to the federal, unlike what most people believe. It's the way the Constitution was set up. U.S. reaches a $100 million settlement over the Baltimore Bridge. Remember this? I was just looking for a follow-up, trying to find what's going on with it. 2 Singaporean shipping companies on Thursday. This is dated just October 25th, 2 days ago. 2 Singaporean shipping companies on Thursday agreed to pay the U.S. government more than $101 million to settle a civil claim over the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. U.S. Department of Justice announced the deal on Thursday, saying that the money would go to various federal agencies affected by the incident or involved in the response. So the federal government's going to take it. U.S. government originally asked for roughly $103 million in damages. So they got 101. Saying that they actually get it, of course. So you remember that. March 26th, Dolly crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Killed 6 highway maintenance workers. So what happened to the boat? The ship left Baltimore for Norfolk, Virginia in June. So this happened in March, and it was able to leave in June. Container ship that took the voyage under military escort, delivering roughly 1,500 cargo containers along the way. It was set to receive repairs in Norfolk. So there you go. Oh, it's 11/11. So anyway, those are the articles on the SIFT, which is on WNG.org. It's just a section of their website called that. Thought this was kind of interesting, just something to think about. We were talking about Trump earlier. Now, the link here that they're linking over to, emergency message to Trump, call out dangerous executive DOD directives put in place after Biden was removed by the deep state coup. That's an InfoWars link. And That is something that they did not talk about as far as the DoD directives and all that stuff that we mentioned last week. That's something they did not talk about. They did not cover that in the Rogan interview, which is unfortunate. But I do think that he knows about it because RFK Jr. has talked about it at length. And we've got a clip of that in just a little bit. We'll play that. But anyway, this says, emergency message to Trump, call out the dangerous DoD directives. But then the guy that manages this site, Daily Crow, which is a site that I like, is, I would say, an anti-Trump type person. He says it's so obvious that it makes it hard to believe that they are going to play this card. I'm thinking Trump is selected already, and this is all theater. See, I disagree with that. That's what this guy says. This is all theater so that the emotional swing and support behind Trump is stronger. Then Trump can oversee the biggest false flag in history, pass anti-Semitism laws, which he has talked about, and introduce us to the fallen angels via Space Force, and build the third temple. So this guy's really, really down on Trump and thinks that Trump could be installed, and it's already been decided, and that if he's installed, if he becomes president, which if they really wanted him to be president, I don't think they would have tried to kill him for real. I don't think they would have put him through all the lawfare and everything else. They've tried to put him in jail and everything else. So I think that's a bit silly to say that, but this guy's saying that he believes that Trump will get in and that he's going to oversee the biggest false flag in history, pass anti-Semitism laws, and introduce us to fallen angels via the Space Force, and build the third temple. Well, I don't know that you even really necessarily need a U.S. president installed, no matter which persuasion, whether Republican or Democrat, for all those things to happen. Because I think that many of those things will probably unfold. If we're indeed in the end times, like I believe we are. So it will all unfold in God's timing, whatever that is. So I just think it's kind of interesting that this guy is saying all of these things are probably going to come to pass, and that it's kind of a foregone conclusion, which I disagree with. I don't think it is. I don't think Trump gets in, personally, no matter what we do. Electric plastic. Never heard of that. I saw this headline earlier and thought it was interesting. Electric plastic could merge technology with the body in future wearables and implants. Yeah, and you could say and initiation too, huh? But Singularity Hub wouldn't say that that's already happening or anything. They would say you're a conspiracy theorist if you believe that. Finding ways to connect the human body to technology could have broad applications in health and entertainment. A new electric plastic could make self-powered wearables, real-time neural interfaces, and medical implants that merge with our bodies a reality. That's already a scientific done deal, if you ask me. Where there has been significant progress in the development of wearable and implantable technology in recent years, most electronic materials are hard, rigid, and feature toxic metals. Yeah, well, I'll just interject this. Except for the self-replicating, self-building systems that were integrated by the hence those really long white strands are pulling out of corpses. You know that. But I digress. It says a variety of approaches for creating soft electronics has emerged, but finding ones that are durable, power efficient, and easy to manufacture is a significant challenge. Organic ferroelectric materials are promising because they exhibit spontaneous polarization, which means they have a stable electric field pointing in a particular direction. The polarization can be flipped by applying an external electrical field, allowing them to function a bit like a conventional computer. So, biocomputer. So, yeah, and there's even more here about this idea. Gee, it sounds so novel, so new. It's amazing that they thought of it on Singularity Hub. But it's already been, at least to some degree. Small Midwestern town overwhelmed by 3,000 African migrants living tax-free. I was looking at this earlier just to see if this was indeed Springfield they're talking about. This is talking about a tiny Ohio town wrangling with sudden influx of African refugees and also Haitian refugees, whose arrival has almost doubled the population over the past year. Close to Cincinnati, Lockland, so that's the town, Lockland, Ohio, was home to 3,500 people in 2023, but local officials say it has now taken in more than 3,000 legal Mauritanian asylum seekers. Asylum seekers, yes, or freeloaders, as I like to call them. If you look at 2021, 22, the United States has seen a huge influx of immigrants from Mauritania. Lachlan Village administrator told Fox News. Somehow, a good number of them have landed in Lachlan. Yeah, somehow. It's called the Democrat Party. It's called human trafficking. Ooh, looks like they're having some scrumptious dog or cat or something for dinner right there. Look. Yeah, so anyway, welcome to Lachlan, I guess. So this is being pushed in pretty much all the small towns around, small and large alike. Well, they have to send those 40 million people somewhere, so we're going to send them to live with you. How about that? Pretty soon they'll be forcing them to live in our homes. We're going to have to share our homes with them too. They'll try it. You watch. They're already trying that in Europe in places. LGBT activists meet with the Pope and urge him to end Vatican opposition to trans ideology. I don't think he has anything against LGBTQ, ABC, XYZ, do you? He would probably be one if he could be. LGBT activists have a strange obsession with religious acceptance, specifically from the Catholic Church. Rational minds would argue that if a group is diametrically opposed to your lifestyle, then you would avoid associating with that group. Why clamor for their attention? It's because it's their religion, and they want to force you to be part of their religion. Literally. The IDF is saying that Hezbollah is hiding $500 million in gold and cash in a bunker under the Beirut hospital. You believe that one? $500 million in gold and cash in a bunker in Beirut. So what are they going to do? Bomb them back to the Stone Age, I would think. Now, how would they possibly know that it's 500 million? Why didn't they just say 500 bazillion billion? I mean, how could they even know that it's 500 million? And that there's even anything there and that it even exists? It sounds to me like they just want to blast the hospital and kill everyone in it, if you ask me. Amid operation against groups' finances, military spokesman calls on Lebanon and international groups to prevent use of money to fund terror. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, on Monday declassified intelligence on the Hezbollah terror group's finance hub, including a bunker hidden underneath a hospital in South Beirut that said it contains hundreds of millions of dollars in cash and gold. Why would they want to bomb it, though? They would want to go in and raid it and steal it and confiscate it all, wouldn't they? Well, they've got the picture here from Google Maps. So it must not be too much of a hidden little detail there. According to the estimates we have, there's at least $500 million in bills and gold stored in the bunker. Could be used to rebuild the state of Lebanon. Yeah, how dare they? How dare they try and rebuild after we blast them? Well, anyway, this is on the Times of Israel. And I'm sure they wouldn't make up a story just to blow up a hospital or anything, or invade, or whatever they're trying to do here. Yeah, how about that report? I thought that was really, really good. Good information, even though it's somewhat terrifying. So yeah, if you're an organ donor, you sign the back of your driver's license, you might want to rethink that one, because you're worth more dead than alive. We had a guest, I forget, it was a doctor, I forget his name, I'd have to look it up, on Lost Arts Radio several years ago at this point, and he talked about that. Don't sign your organ donation thing on your driver's license, because they will let you die just to parse you out and sell you, to various other hospitals who can use the organs. Yeah, so it's not good. And then Susan's asking, is there an age limit on performing sex changes? Can a 70-year-old man decide to transition? Yeah, as far as I know, there's no age limit. There's no age limit on being crazy either. So I think that it's very possible that somebody that was that old could decide to transition, and people would be all for it. The people that the doctors that are going to make the thousands and thousands of dollars would be all for it, helping whoever it is that they think that they're going to help, which of course is just abuse. It's just, these people are mentally not all there for sure. Anyway, so speaking of biology, we were just looking at that with the last video. I wanted to mention this. I thought it was kind of interesting. And this article has a few pictures in it that might be a little, if you're easily offended, you might want to either change the channel or close your eyes. I'll let you know. But I'm going to kind of scroll quickly through past a couple pictures. But I thought the article was really interesting because I'd never heard this before. And we've talked about Da Vinci on and off on this show, but not really from this perspective. More about the Shroud of Turin and how I personally believe that that was a Da Vinci created fake, and I feel like that is one of the most prominent things out there in Christendom that people believe is real, and you're welcome to believe it's real. I mean, I know a lot of people that think it is. I personally don't think it is, but I don't think it's a salvific issue, though, either. This is not about the Shroud of Turin, though. However, I've talked about Da Vinci a lot with regard to that and also the Mona Lisa. But this I thought was really interesting. It says, deep in his notebooks, Da Vinci had a mind-blowing idea that the human body, is a scale model of Earth. And that's just the beginning. His theory will change the way you see everything. And this is really true if you look at it closely. They're showing the arm, a human arm, and what is that? It's a land mass with rivers and tributaries. Look, it says, while dissecting the human body, which we went into quite a bit of detail with that back when we were talking about the Shroud of Turin. He had access to human bodies, and he often did cadaver research and knew all about this. It says, while dissecting the human body, Leonardo noticed his workings reflected the natural world. Branching blood vessels were like tributaries flowing into rivers. So they're showing the human anatomy here and then a map. The expansion and contraction of breathing mirrored the ebb and flow of ocean tides. So it's talking about this. And then, again, another map. And erosion and deposition of sediment by rivers was like the deterioration of our blood vessels as we age. But then he went way beyond simple comparisons. Leonardo began comparing the size of different parts of branching systems like tree branches and blood vessels and comparing their various angles. So I think by looking at this stuff, seeing Leonardo's drawings here, it definitely shows you that it's one designer of all of these things. One designer. It's amazing. It says, Leonardo began comparing the different sizes of different parts of branching systems like tree branches and blood vessels and comparing their various angles. So here you see a tree, and then here you see, looks like the branches maybe in, I don't know, I can't really tell. Maybe in a lung or something? I'm not real sure. It says this all led him into a belief that pervaded every aspect of his work, that humans are not just part of the cosmos, but a miniature representation of it. The macrocosm-microcosm analogy. So here's the X-rated part, so just close your eyes. When you look for it in his work, you start to see it everywhere. Notice how in the Mona Lisa, the river in the background seems to flow into Lisa's scarf. Man is the model of the world, Leonardo wrote. And to me, that is key because in the video that I've mentioned numerous times on here, on the show, Leonardo is the model of the Mona Lisa. So the Mona Lisa is the female version of Leonardo. That's why no one could ever figure out who this girl was. It's because she is him. And the quote here, written in his own book, in his own hand, says, man is the model of the world. He's also the model of Mona Lisa. Anyway, but yeah, this is talking about the the scarf right here flowing into the river. So you can kind of see it there, right here. Here's the river right here. The idea wasn't originally Da Vinci's. It's ancient. Comparison of physiological functions to cosmology can be found as far back as ancient Mesopotamia. Plato even suggested the cosmos itself could be considered alive. But with Leonardo's help, the theory became the defining idea behind the Renaissance humanism. If human beings were not just one creature among many, but a miniature instantiation of the cosmos, then human life had potential for greatness. Whilst grappling with humanity's place in the universe, Leonardo turned to an ancient unsolvable math problem, squaring the circle. How do you draw a square with the same area of a circle, using only a compass and a straight edge? This question was about far more than geometry. Circles represented the divine and infinite, while the square was an ancient symbol of the physical world. Solving the riddle was essentially answering, can the physical world ever be fully united to the divine? The math is not solvable due to the nature of pi, but Leonardo solved it symbolically. He asked, perhaps humanity was so important that proportions of the body could solve geometrical puzzles. That's where his famous image comes in. By measuring the ideal proportions of the male body against a square and circle, the Vitruvian man solved the unsolvable problem. Notice the man's limbs are at two positions. Right here. Touching the borders of the circle and meeting perfectly at the edges of the corresponding square. So you can see him here. Touching the circle here, and yet meeting the square. With a simple sketch, Leonardo showed that it is a man himself who squares the circle. He can exist in both the earthly and the divine realms, the square or the circle. It just depends on what he chooses. In other words, human beings do have a significant place in the universe, the unique place of uniting the earthly with the divine. I thought that was pretty cool. And, it was said in that film, at least, that I've mentioned a couple times, that he was, I don't know if you call him anti-God, but he was totally fine with his own face being plastered on the Shroud of Turin, and that people would be mistaking him for Christ. He was totally fine with that. So that tells me he wasn't too concerned about God. You know what I mean? He probably wasn't exactly a believer, you might say, but it is interesting. Some of the things he proved I thought was really, really neat. And to me, it shows an overall design that you can look at the blood vessels and the capillaries and the tissues of humanity, of people, and you could say animals, and compare that to rivers and streams and lakes and tributaries and the land and mountains and all of that. So I thought that was really cool. Neat little story I kind of came across earlier. Thought that was cool. Wanted to share that with you guys. Nuclear rockets could take us to Mars in half the time. NASA plans to fly one by 2027. No, I don't think so. And besides, if anybody's going to fly it, it'll probably be old Elon, don't you think? But I thought that was kind of silly. Another Singularity Hub article here that I've come across. I thought it was interesting. It says NASA plans to send crewed missions, crewed as in a crew, to Mars over the next decade. Yeah, right. But the 140 million mile journey to the red planet could take several months to years round trip. Yeah, that's why it's never going to happen. So anyways, I thought that was a bit silly, but they are talking about it still. Let me look and see what you guys were saying here. Kathy was saying, Man in America had Dr. David Martin on. He describes our 12 senses, not 5, and how that knowledge was kept from us. Truly fascinating. I've heard that too, yeah. I haven't seen that interview, but Dr. David Martin is really great, I think. And then Susan says that is very intriguing. He had some insight into ancient knowledge, but was devoted to God and obtaining the knowledge, maybe? I don't know. I don't think, if you're talking about Da Vinci, I don't think so. I think he, again, was totally fine being the face of God and had no problem with that, apparently. So Kathy says she's going to post that. Okay, good. Yeah, I'll put that in our band. And I think Emily put the link in band, so make sure you guys join band if you're not in there already. So yeah, Da Vinci. That would be really interesting to see that Dr. David Martin interview. So I would definitely check that out. So thanks, Kathy, for doing that. Yeah, Da Vinci. I don't know. I think that maybe later in life, perhaps you could hope that he came to God, perhaps. But there's just no way to know. I don't. From what I can tell, the answer is probably a no. But we just don't know. Only God knows. So yeah, nuclear rockets taking us to Mars, I don't think so. But Elon Musk would be all about that. All right, and then Global Research video, wiping Gaza off the map, confiscating Palestine's maritime natural gas reserves. So again, about the Gaza 2035 or whatever they're saying here, this is kind of a little bit of more of that story. Says Israel has launched an invasion of the Gaza Strip, as outlined by this author with foresight 10 years ago in December 2013 article. Israel is set to become a major exporter of gas and some oil, if all goes to plan. Plan. Yeah, that's the plan, all right. Wiping Gaza off the map and taking it over. And we've talked about that before. I mean, the Gaza 2035 plans have leaked. I mean, you can see what they're actually planning to do. That's why they're trying to wipe them all out. They're not trying to move them. They're trying to kill them all so that they can take over the land. That's what they're trying to do. It's obvious. So anyway, this one is talking about natural gas primarily, but yeah, there's all kinds of reasons they're trying to take over Gaza. So that one's on Global Research, globalresearch.ca. And then this one, I thought was kind of wild. The WLT report website, mathematically unstealable, quote unquote. Early voting shows Trump may secure the election before election day, and I don't think so. But that's just what they're positing on here. Too big to rig and so forth. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. I do think that they will be able to rig it no matter how big that they think is going to be. So they have to wait and see what the numbers are. So that's why they want to stretch out the whole election process as long as possible. And they're totally fine starting a civil war in the meantime. But if they stretch it out as long as possible, they'll know how many votes they need to overcome it. And then they'll simply announce that she won. She had enough votes. Look, it's amazing. Maybe she'll get, well, what was it? Biden had 80-some million votes or something like that. The most votes ever, supposedly. 82 million votes or 86 million votes or whatever it was, but it wasn't by that many voters. It was just that he had that many votes. And who knows how many actual voters voted for him. Well, in her case, was it going to be 300 million? We just don't know. They could come up with anything and everything to win. And then, let's see. There's a question above here. Let me scroll up here. Susan says, what's your personal thought on the election would incite a civil war if Trump wins? Yeah, I think no matter who wins on the election, no matter who they announce as the winner, I think there will be, the other side is going to cry foul. Yep. And if Trump wins in particular, like they did in 2017 when he got in, when he was, literally the day he was inaugurated, there were BLM and protesters out there burning cars and smashing buildings and doing everything they could do. They will do that times 100. I would imagine this time around, if he is the person who makes it in and is actually inaugurated, which I don't really foresee that happening. I really think that they will throw out every possible thing they can throw as far as getting her in there and installing her, because they've bothered to take it as far as they have. I mean, she became the nominee with no votes. So, I mean, they don't have a problem installing someone, and they did that with Biden the first time around too. So I do think that they want to see some sort of a civil war being provoked, which is why I think that because Trump is so far ahead in all of the polls and the turnout will be massive, the number of people that will go and vote on Election Day will probably, theoretically make it too big to rig, but they'll still rig it. Again, all they need is that final number and just give her another million more, whatever it is. And I feel like, though, before they announce who is going to be the president, they will try and draw it out as long as possible so that they can make people start to get upset about it and make people believe, rightfully so, that they're going to steal the election again, and then that's when they'll step in and, truck bomb a black church, or they'll blow up a federal building, or they'll do something that will be some sort of massive story and kill a bunch of people. Maybe they'll blow up a whole city block or something. Who knows what they'll do? They're capable of absolutely anything. And they'll do that and then blame it on MAGA. They'll blame it on MAGA and the crazy Trump voters. Look and see what he and his followers did, and then they can imprison him for setting up this situation where they're the ones that are actually portraying the crime. It's the feds doing the blowing up of whatever it is and killing people. That's what they're good at. They're really good at that. So I feel like that's probably what'll happen. They'll draw it out. They'll make people start to get upset, and then they'll do something where they kill a bunch of people, most likely in some mass thing, and then they'll blame Trump for it and try and jail him and make sure he never gets in. That's kind of where I think it's going as of right now. So I don't think that it's necessarily too big to rig. Unfortunately, I think it, no matter how big it is, it'll still be small enough that they can, because they control the media, they control everything. They can overstep whatever numbers that they have just by saying that there's more and that she had more votes than there are people on the planet. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe she'll get 8 billion votes. It's hard to say what they'll do, but it doesn't have to be believable. We already know that that they have thrown out all the rules already, and all they care about is power. And as Hal Turner has said many times on his broadcast, that they are totally fine blowing up the world, and as long as they are ruling over the ashes of what's left, they are okay with that. And that does seem to be the way it's playing out. Yeah, Susan says, "Oh dear, that hasn't occurred to me." Yeah, I mean, that's something that AJ has posited some of what I said there, and I think that there's a really good chance of something like that happening. I don't think that they're going to let him in. I really don't. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go vote and do what I believe God has clearly shown, and that is that he has saved him and that he's using him for this particular thing. So maybe, it's like 2016 and it's a miracle. Perhaps. I don't know. That's kind of what happened, in my opinion, in 2016. There was 4 years of reprieve there. Yeah, after Ruby Ridge and Waco, I believe that is literally in their job description. Yeah, I mean, killing people is just second nature for them. They're totally fine with it as long as they get to maintain power, unfortunately. So, and this guy right here is totally fine killing as many people as possible as well. He's really good at it. All right, so another ThreadReader app article I thought was really kind of cool. This is Roman busts brought to life with AI. So these are some of the clips that AI has created, I guess, from these sculptures. I thought it was pretty wild. Look at this. Trajan? I've never even heard of this guy. Trajan. And you got Julius Caesar. Maybe what Julius Caesar looked like, and I guess if he was mad. Egalabius. Again, never heard of him. Kind of spooky. So AI is so radical in the video that it creates. It's not really believable, but it is pretty amazing. Look how they make him look crazy. Caligula. So the animation is almost like kind of worthless, but the description, the realism of between the picture that it creates versus the sculpture is pretty amazing. It's funny how they make the AI just gravitates toward making people look non-human. You know what I mean? Like maybe AI. I guess what it could be is AI sees all these former famous busts, all these people as Democrats. So that's why they look so crazy. And they, again, you see the whites of their eyes. Look how mad they are. Titus. And then Marcus Aurelius. It's like AI sees every human being like this. It's a good glimpse into AI as well. Even though they did a good job. I think AI did a good job giving us a human rendering. The fact that they're converting them into, I guess, Democrat voters and crazy people is that's Nero. That's a whole other thing. But anyway, I thought that was pretty wild. So it's showing you more than one thing there. You're seeing the AI's rendition of the sculptures, but yeah, it's interesting how they made them look angry and almost non-human. All right, so let's keep moving here. Disinformation Chronicle on Substack. Election exclusive. British advisors to Kamala Harris hope to kill Musk's Twitter. So this is something that I mentioned off and on, that if she does get in, I think Twitter will probably be one of the top priorities for her to make sure that it's closed down or turned back into Twitter 1.0 or whatever they can do. I don't know. I mean, with Musk in there, I don't think that they would be able to do anything other than basically switch it off at the server level and not allow it to be on the internet anymore, or sue him into oblivion or whatever they're going to do. So this is just stating and saying that it looks like Twitter might be one of the top priorities. England, not Russia, is a culprit in a real foreign election interference story, as the leaked stateside plans of an advisory group with close ties to Prime Minister Keir Starmer show. The British are coming to meddle in our elections. So this is kind of interesting. An explosive leak with ramifications for the upcoming election. Internal documents from the Center for Countering Digital Hate, how about that name, whose founder is British political operative Morgan McSweeney, now advising the Kamala Harris campaign, show the group plans in writing to kill Musk's Twitter while strengthening ties with the Biden-Harris administration and Democrats like Senator Amy Klobuchar, who has introduced multiple bills to regulate online, quote, misinformation. Yeah, so that's interesting that it's the UK that's helping her do this. And again, if she gets in there, I think that Musk and Twitter will be one of the top priorities as far as getting them shut down. Now, I also came across another article that kind of talks about this, so let's watch this. This is on Truth in Media. This is Ben Swan. So let's watch this short clip.
Imagine this, 100 Russians going door to door in North Carolina, knocking on doors and asking people to vote for Trump. And if that happened, it'd be an act of war. But it's actually happening. But it's the UK Labour Party that's doing it for Kamala Harris. 100 different volunteers flying over. The UK Labour Party is paying for their flights. They're putting them up and finding places for them to stay. They're advising her campaign. How is this not election interference? It's totally crazy to think that media can ignore it when it happens in the UK. Just because they're foreign nationals from the UK doesn't mean it's not foreign election interference. Media has no problem with it. The Labour Party says we're not doing anything illegal because we're not giving Kamala Harris money. Oh, really? Well, the Russians didn't give Trump money, and yet we spent the last 8 years, and we're still doing it, going after Russia, sanctioning them. They're the enemy of the state, and yet the UK is allowed to actively and openly campaign on behalf of a presidential candidate because her campaign is losing.
Yeah. So that is just more information that's kind of a sidebar, really, to this story. It's all kind of the same story. So the UK is meddling in our elections, but it's okay when they do it. It's not okay if the Republicans tried it. If Trump tried that, you can bet it would be front and center, wall to wall, everywhere, all the time. But nope, not for Harris. She's able to do anything like that she wants and get away with it, no problem. So this is kind of going back to what we were talking about before, civil war. This is one of the culprits of one of the reasons that I think that there's a good chance that it could go that way as far as the election goes. Dangerous post-election narrative. James Carville, who I don't know if you guys remember him. He was one of the brains behind the Bill Clinton campaign for all those years. He was the one that coined the term, it's the economy stupid. Remember that? That was him that came up with that. And he's always been a little demon, always. But anyway, this says, dangerous post-election narrative. James Carville calls on Democrats to take up arms against Trump regime if Kamala loses. Well, he is saying that, but he's actually saying the opposite. He's saying that Trump will take up arms, is what he's actually saying. But the rest of this little blurb at the top of this story says, it's truly mind-blowing how certain elements of our society are ramping up the vitriol ahead of this election. There's apparently nothing to which they won't stoop in their drive to divide. Democrat political operative Carville, who reminds me of the male equivalent of Cruella de Vil, says Democrats need to take up arms if Trump wins. Now, he may be saying that, but he's also saying, on the other side of his mouth, that it will be the MAGA people and Trump who will take up arms against the people who are his political opponents, quote unquote, when there's no evidence of that whatsoever. It's the Democrats who like to kill people. We know this. Yeah, he does look like a demon. Yeah, I'm convinced he pretty much is. All right, and then another Leo Hohmann article. RFK Jr. becomes America's first major political voice to condemn Biden-Harris regime's ominous federal directive 5240.01, which again, we talked about that last week and the week before. So far, it's been mostly crickets from the national media and national political figures. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Tread where apparently no other politician dares to go yesterday during a political rally in Georgia. So the point here is InfoWars was trying to get this information to Trump, and now RFK Jr. has picked it up, so hopefully Trump has this information as well. Not that it matters, but it might. Who knows? RFK condemned the Biden-Harris administration's shameful Defense Department directive to expand the U.S. military's authority to participate in domestic law enforcement up to and including use of lethal force against American citizens on American soil, which comes just in time for this civil war that they have planned for everybody. So you see how this falls right in line with what Carville is talking about here. So this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to gin up violence and craziness post-election, I would think. I'm not so sure they will be successful with that, but that is apparently what they're trying to do. So anyway, the other article on Leo's site, surveillance state has arrived and it's being implemented by our own cities and towns, which we know this, but this is further information about things we already kind of know about. Cities across the U.S. are installing hidden surveillance cameras that track everyone everywhere, and nobody, not even Trump, is talking about this. What are the top 10 most surveilled cities in the U.S.? We've got the list. And he says, my old colleagues at WorldNet Daily have an interesting story up today about the city of Norfolk, Virginia. Officials have transformed Norfolk into a virtual lockdown surveillance society with more than 172 high-resolution internet-connected cameras monitoring practically all human movement. Not good. Anyway, that's one of the articles here on leohohmann.com. And then on his Substack, he has quite a few good articles. That's why I like to mention what he's doing. Zelensky's game of nuclear blackmail. This one's not on his website, but it is on his Substack. So, again, we'll link to this in the Substack post that I put out. But you can find it on Substack. Just do a search for Leo Hohmann, or Leo's newsletter even. Ukrainian dictator threatens U.S. allow his country to join the Western NATO military alliance or else. Yeah, or else he will nuke Russia. Apparently, that's the or else. Wow. So yes, and don't forget, he's just an actor. Yep, who likes to wear spandex and high heels and prance around and play the piano with his you know what. But I digress. All right. Center for Countering Digital Hate CEO orders Black Ops against RFK Jr. in shocking memo. Israel orders removal of headstones for fallen IDF soldier because it has a Christian cross on it. So those loving Israelis, they love Christians, or at least they love the idea of Christians with money who give them the money, and then after that, they don't really love Christians too much. Federal government caught shipping hundreds of thousands of migrant kids around the U.S. like commodities. Yes, it's called human trafficking. Prepare for a landslide Trump victory on November 5th, followed by an avalanche of fake Kamala ballots counted in the days that follow. That's kind of what I've been saying, although I think they'll take it further. I think they'll try to get a civil war going. I really do, unfortunately. Now, hopefully people won't fall for it. I don't think, certainly never would and wouldn't even occur to me to call for violence. But I think there are people out there who would, not necessarily even on the Trump side, but there are bad actors that are feds who would certainly do that. And so that's the kind of thing that those provocateurs are the people you got to watch out for. Because I guarantee you, if there's provocateurs calling for violence, it's a Fed. Just imagine everybody is Ray Epps at that point, calling for any sort of crazy things to occur post-election. Let's see, what other headlines are there on Natural News? An evil people, 61% of Israeli men think it's okay to rape an acquaintance or even their own wives. 61%. Yeah. So that says a lot, doesn't it? War crime. Israeli bombings devastate UNESCO World Heritage Site in Tyre, Lebanon. Wow. Anyway, there's some good headlines, good articles over there on naturalnews.com. It's always a good site. Wine Press, top articles on their little slider they have here. Roughly a quarter of Americans believe a post-election civil war is likely. A quarter of Americans. So again, I do not want to speak it into existence, but, 2020 we had the George Floyd mess that happened. And that was a little unsettling at times, depending on where you lived. So, this could be far worse. I don't know. It depends on what is actually announced and what people are talking about. I don't think that most people are going to even buy a Kamala victory at this point. She's so not even looking at the polls. Just common sense says she's really far behind, and she has really small crowds compared to what Trump has and so forth. But I don't think it really matters when it comes down to it, unfortunately. All right, so we got the Bill Gates story here, ordered to stand trial in Dutch court. I don't know that that'll happen, but there it is. Study demonstrates PFAS chemicals can be absorbed through our skin, which that does make sense. It's our largest organ, U.S., Canada, and Mexico strengthen medical ties by launching the North American Preparedness for Animal and Human Pandemics Initiative. That does not sound good. Medical madness is the category for that one. Yep. Media declares Trump or Harris will be the bird flu pandemic president as human cases rise and feds fund the environment creation. So, get ready. Let's see. Head of UK's NHS plans for patient passports to digitize and hold all medical records. So that's the digital ID system that they really want to push on people. Should be tied directly to your biometrics implanted in you. World War III, South Korea to send troops and weapons to Ukraine amidst reports North Korea is providing Russia with soldiers. So how about that? South Korea is going to help Ukraine and North Korea is going to help Russia. No problem there. Anyway, there's some other good articles on here. So other things to check out on Wine Press News. It's a good site. And then one of them listed here, Amazon promotes the necessity of digital IDs. Yeah, what are you going to do when they, the largest retailer in the world, i.e. Amazon, when they require you to have a digital ID to shop there? Well, if you're shopping there now, you probably won't be. If you're listening to this show, you probably won't do it anymore. All right, Tommy Robinson, you guys may know who he is. Well, guess what? He's back in jail. He was arrested as 100,000 peaceful patriots march for free speech to protest the two-tier Keir in London. Again, every time I've tried to mention this, whenever I see this guy's name, whenever you see Keir Starmer's name, just think King Charles. They're one and the same. There's no difference. He's doing what Charles wants. Tommy Robinson has now been arrested. British activist and filmmaker. Robinson was arrested this last Friday, ahead of his court date on Monday. Nonetheless, on Saturday, 100,000 patriots marched peacefully at Tommy's Unite the Kingdom rally in London to protest the fascist Labour regime, which has been arresting people for the crime of protesting. So, yeah, that is what's going on over there. I don't know if you guys know who Tommy is. I've mentioned him before and shown some of his videos and talked about some of his videos before. I've got my, my Union Jack on in support of Tommy there. So, it says Robinson is driving to the police station, likely facing imprisonment for his documentary called Silenced. I mentioned that previously on this show. Silenced is really good. It's well done. And I'm linked to it on my Twitter profile, so you can definitely find it on there. But you can just find it anywhere. If you're on Twitter, it's definitely not going to be on YouTube, I don't think. But it's on Twitter for sure. So if you're on there, definitely watch the film Silenced that was created by Tommy. I think he has done some really good work, and it's a shame that they have imprisoned him yet again, which I don't know how many times he's been in jail at this point, but they'll probably try and confine him with some Muslims so that he really gets beat up bad or something. Who knows what they'll do. Poor guy. So anyway, that's on the Gateway Pundit. And then this is the big Rogan interview. Rogan's explosive Trump interview shatters records with 26 million views in just 24 hours. Here's what you missed. So we've got some links to some clips if you just want to watch a few clips of it. Overall, it was pretty well done. Again, there was a couple times where they kind of, went off the reservation, so to speak, and talked about some stuff that didn't really resonate with that many people. But overall, it was a good conversation, and I agreed with a lot of what was said. Not everything, but a lot of it. Virginia Lieutenant Governor slams corrupt judge's shocking ruling allowing non-citizens to remain on the stater's voter rolls. Isn't that nice? We talked about that earlier. U.S. District Judge Giles, a Biden appointee, so there she is in the picture there, has ordered the state to reinstate over 1,600 self-identified non-citizens previously removed from the voter rolls in Virginia. But she knows they're Democrat voters, and they have to be left on there for Kamala to win, like they need her to. Yeah. And then I mentioned this sort of last week, the first part of the story. Venezuela accuses Brazil's Lula of faking an injury. Remember, he had a head injury? He had a head injury and couldn't go to the BRICS meeting, because BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, BRICS is Brazil, which he's the fake president of. Bolsonaro was kicked out, and this guy was installed. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, right? Well, he's the president of Brazil, and he supposedly had a head injury, and was not able to go to the BRICS meeting. Well, Venezuela is saying he was faking it to avoid the Kazan summit and escape Putin and Maduro's rage for vetoing Venezuela and Nicaragua in BRICS. That might be very true. Who knows? This guy is a communist. Lula, this guy. Maduro, I don't know that much about, but that's who this guy is. But this guy, Lula, was installed because he was literally in prison. They got him out of prison to, quote, run for president so that he could be fully controlled. And, of course, he is fully controlled. He's the guy that took over after they kicked Bolsonaro out, just like they kicked Trump out and installed Biden. So there you go. Very interesting world we live in. Watch. California teacher holds pizza parties for kids who voted for Harris in a mock election. Excludes the Trump voters. Democrats are more for feeding the hungry, quote unquote. So if your kid was in this person's class and they voted for Trump, they didn't get to have the pizza party. That's probably a good thing. If you know what pizza parties are, it's probably a good thing. Video is going viral of a California parent confronting a teacher who told students that only those who voted for Kamala gets to have the election pizza party. Wow. Yep. Again, this is where society is these days. I thought this was ridiculous, and again, this is where we are. AOC and Tim Walz to play video games on Twitch in desperate attempt to court young male voters. Tim Walz. They're going to play Madden, and that will be maddening. So if you don't already know, Madden is a football game, video game, named after the famous coach, John Madden. So it says Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, and VP hopeful Tim Walz are scheduled to play video games on the streaming platform Twitch, which I've been kicked off of, by the way, in a desperate attempt to court young male voters. Yeah, my Twitch account was summarily closed about a year or two ago now for daring to say things that I was not supposed to talk about, which had to do with medical misinformation, talking about those books and stuff, back when I was, able to broadcast on Twitch. Yeah, so I'm long gone from there, but we do still use Twitch for my work on Lost Arts Radio. We're able to talk about things fairly openly still on there, or again, I should say, which is really strange. I don't know why I got singled out, but I know other people that lost their Twitch accounts too. But anyways, says the duo will play Madden NFL on Sunday. It will take place on the Congresswoman's Twitch channel. So there you go. I'm sure it will be a joke and really funny for those people that are like some of these video gamers are. I mean, this is serious business. Seriously, Madden is a huge business on Twitch and DLive and some of the other video game platforms. Lots of people out there playing that and many of the other video games, but those Madden guys who are really good at what they do will be really making fun of these two. I guarantee it. So that will be humorous just to see some of the tweets and postings and stuff that will come out as a result of AOC and Tampon Tim trying to play football. That would be really funny. Anyways, this is another Kamala story I wanted to mention. I got this in my email and thought that this is something I wanted to bring to your attention because I don't really hear anyone else talking about this. You may know who Marco Polo is, not the famous explorer, not that Marco Polo. This is an organization. I don't really know why it's called that, but they have been the very definition of putting out the truth about the Biden laptop. That's really kind of the main thing that they do, has been talk about the Biden laptop and put out all of the information that was on the Biden laptop. All right. So anyway, this is their recent posting here. It says from 2 days ago, Kamala is in the Biden laptop. And I saw that. I'm like, uh-oh. I didn't know if that was going to be pictures, video, what that was going to be exactly. But no, it's not exactly that. So it's a little deceptive as far as, yes, she is in it. She is mentioned in it. And her phone number is mentioned in it, front and center. But let's just see what this says. Says, last week was the 4-year anniversary of the Biden laptop expose by the New York Post. We have since published the most complete dossier on the contents of the abandoned device. And the American First Family is trying to shut down our group, meaning Marco Polo, with egregious and expensive lawfare because of that comprehensive dossier, which they have released all the information, and it's available right here, BidenLaptopEmails.com, a database which has been utilized by more than 10 million people across America and the globe. Go in there to find out what all was on the laptop. So it's all there. They've put it all out. It's not really being hidden. It's all out there, public information, and Marco Polo has done really good work getting all that information out there. So it says, another example of the breadth and depth of the emails. So there was a lot of emails, kind of like the WikiLeaks thing where all those emails were released. There was a lot of emails that were available on the laptop, apparently. Kamala was considered for a board member slot on the Beau Biden Foundation for the Protection of Children. Yes, an entity bearing the name, unironically, exists and was written about extensively in our dossier, along with the fact that Beau Biden's widow accused Hunter Biden, who she was sleeping with, of being sexually inappropriate with her then underage daughter. Beau Biden's so this is really a tangled web, I guess. Beau Biden's widow and Hunter were on the board of the foundation around the time of the widow's multiple allegations. So figure that whole mess out, man. So here's what they're pointing to here. AG Kamala Harris, cell phone, 415-309-6244. There's her phone number, at least at the time. And this was as of January 22nd, 2016. She's probably changed her number by now. But anyway, it says that in addition to the Beau Biden Foundation board seat option, Kamala's campaign reached out to the foundation with an offer to buy the latter's email list, a likely FEC violation, something the Biden camp and specifically this person, Mel Monzak, the president's power of attorney, knows all about. So it says, this is the email here, the two emails. The first one's subject is board calls, and it's from Joshua Alcorn to Hunter Biden. And it says email list. Just an FYI, Kamala Harris's campaign reached out. This is an email from December 30th, 2015 from Joshua Alcorn to Hunter Biden. Just an FYI, Harris's campaign reached out, keeping in mind she was California Attorney General at the time. They would like to pay us about $1,000 for access to the email list. The money would go to the campaign, then be transferred to the foundation. Seems like a good thing to do, and we would work out a way to get some names and emails from her once her general election is over. This isn't a foundation issue, it's just a campaign wrap-up issue. If either of you two have objections, let me know. Thanks, Josh. And then it's got his name and email address again at the time. So the vignettes above are two examples of the putrid nature of the swamp. The Biden laptop story will never end because the swamp never stops trying to lie, cheat, and steal. And Marco Polo will be here to chronicle it all. So Garrett Ziegler is the guy who heads up Marco Polo. I think he's doing a great job. I've seen him do a few interviews. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's not something that you're going to hear in the mainstream media at all. Talking about Kamala Harris and her name and number in the Biden laptop. Isn't that nice? Yep. And then, let's see, activist post headlines. We got It's War. Iranian leaders vow revenge with no limits after Israel bombs Iran, which we talked about that in the first story tonight. Some of the damage that they did recently. Reject the pandemic agreement. James Roguski story about the WHO working to finalize the pandemic agreement by November 11th. How about that? They're going to finalize it on 11/11. Yeah, that seems appropriate, doesn't it? Americans are more dependent on ever than government handouts, new reports state. Yeah. Top stories here on Not the Bee. Some interesting ones. Belgian man wins European Pumpkin Championship with pumpkin weighing as much as a Honda Civic. That's a big pumpkin. New ad tells men to vote Democrat, to vote for Kamala, to keep their... No. Isn't that nice? Trump has a real shot at being the first Republican in 20 years to win the popular vote. A real shot. No pun intended. Yeah, and then this one was really making the rounds on Twitter. Don't let your politics turn you into this chick. This is insane. She is completely unstable. Kamala Harris now has supporters screaming at little children in strollers. Will Kamala Harris or her campaign at Kamala HQ condemn this atrocious behavior? And then, of course, what was there? Crickets. Nothing but crickets. They just totally ignore it. So here's the video. Yeah, he asked her, "Are you insane?" Well, that's a good question. She probably is, though. So yeah, she literally starts screaming at that little kid. I don't give a F what. I don't give a F. Your dad's a blank, blank, blank. It doesn't really say. It's unintelligible because no one can understand what she's saying, but not that it matters. Oh man, what a tough, strong, independent young woman you are, yelling at a child because you don't like her dad's politics. Mm-hmm. And why? Because you support the candidate whose only consistent policy is no limit child sacrifice. Remember, it is a campaign of joy, yes. We talked about that last week. Anyway, I didn't know if you guys saw that, but that one was making its rounds yesterday on Twitter. I noticed it. Thought I would mention it. And then this one is too. I guess it was. But this is for real fake information. Fake news. Kamala supporters spread a fake image of her in a McDonald's uniform. Because, why? Because she never worked at McDonald's, even though she says she did. The image being shared was originally a picture of a woman. Get this. The original woman pictured here was a woman named Suzanne Bernier, who died of cancer in 2007. Kamala Harris has claimed on multiple occasions that she worked at McDonald's restaurants in Alameda, but provided no proof. So this lady here is not Kamala. It's Suzanne Bernier, who has now since died of cancer in 2007. So that is what the Kamala campaign is stooping to. There were harsh words in response to the revelation that the image is a doctored picture of a dead woman. May Suzanne Bernier rest in peace. Her identity and memory were disrespected and stolen by the most abhorrently unqualified and dishonorable politician in human history, tweeted one user. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, that one's available on InfoWars. And then this one, too. Watch Walz pledges to make AOC. Again, I guess Walz and AOC have teamed up here. The House Speaker. He's going to make AOC the House Speaker if Kamala wins. So isn't that nice? After they're done playing Madden together. Yes, now she's black and dead. Wow. I know. Hey, they have no shame. That's true. Kamala's running mate joins Socialist New York Congresswoman for Twitch stream to play video games in a bid to attract male voters. Walz vows to elevate AOC to become the third most powerful person in America. Is just more evidence that the Harris White House will be run by far-left radicals. Yeah, that's putting it mildly, for sure. I don't know. It's getting weirder and weirder out there. Live. Trump makes play for blue state of New York with massive Madison Square Garden MAGA rally. Do you guys know about this? Did you hear what old witch Hillary said about it? Former President Trump is holding a historic rally at iconic Madison Square Garden in New York City in a bid to court disaffected voters who've been burned by radical Democrat policies in the blue state. And there are plenty of them, if you ask me. Well, here's what Hillary had to say. Hillary Clinton says everyone who attends Trump's Madison Square Garden rally on Sunday is a Nazi. She should know, huh? Look at her. Trump supporters are a basket of deplorables and Nazis, according to Hillary. Twice failed presidential hopeful Clinton said that everybody who attends Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden on Sunday is a Nazi. Yeah, that all happened today, by the way. And he didn't let it stop him. Rightfully so. Anyway, So she's just on CNN, which is something no one's watching anyway, out there blabbing and talking about this stuff. But I found this meme and thought, you know what? She's got a good point. I must admit, Trump and Hitler are exactly the same because, look, they have all these things in common. They both drink water from glasses, and they both use the thumbs up, and they both have talked on telephones before. So that proves Trump is a Nazi. I mean, he's literally Hitler, right? According to Hillary, but never mind what the Auschwitz survivor, 94 years old, said that I mentioned a little while ago. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that meme was pretty funny. Far Left Media launches all-out Trump-Hitler blitzkrieg with 5,500 stories in 1 week. Trump as Hitler story count was the most massive total count in the 10 years deep state Muppets have in the mainstream media have called Trump a Hitler/Nazi, according to Bloomberg data. This is what total desperation looks like. Yes, it is. So, and here's a Zero Hedge articles. 2016. You have the Trump as Hitler storylines here, and it's kind of spiked here and there, but it's pretty much maintained its low level of different articles from 2016 to 2024, and then boom, a huge spike that goes way up here, reaching 5,500 and some stories right here. It looks just like the sky and the death rate. But no, it's the Trump-Hitler story count. That's what it is. And there's a few screenshots of them somebody put together. Just a few. So this is what they're stooping to. That's all they have. That's all they have. And then I thought this was kind of interesting. Witches complain that they can't cast spells on Trump because he has, quote, some kind of protection around him. It's not working. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I don't know any witches, so I can't really verify this, but this is what this says. Reddit witches. I didn't know Reddit. There were such thing as Reddit witches, but there are. Self-proclaimed Reddit witches are complaining that they are finding it difficult to cast negative spells on Trump because he has some kind of protection around him. Yes, really. A post on the far left website appeared in a subreddit called Witches versus Patriarchy, and features one of the witches bemoaning the fact that their spells aren't working on the Donald. Some other witches have mentioned that doing spells directly against Trump are not as effective as we might hope, as he seems to have some kind of protection around him, laments one witch. Yeah, well, if it's God, if it's the real God, which I believe it is, then you have no power against that. That's what I think. So again, not saying Trump's perfect, not at all. He's not running for Jesus. He's not running to become Jesus, okay? He's running because he really thinks he can do what's best for the country. So, and they're trying to kill him. Or cast spells on him, I guess, in this case. All right, a few articles on vaccine impact. U.S. Zionist Christians get their prayers answered as the U.S. and Israel bomb Iran. What comes next? And I thought this picture was kind of funny that you see the evangelicals holding their American flags and Israel flags. Bless Israel and destroy Iran. Amen. Yeah, that kind of sums it up, doesn't it? Bless Israel and destroy Iran. Amen. That is what some people think, I guess. Cash is gold. Gold is risky is another article. Large-scale cybersecurity exercise. This is something that I posted about on my Facebook page several days back. I guess it was earlier last week. Department of Homeland Security and Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency are conducting a large-scale cybersecurity exercise on Election Day. And oh yeah, it's in Atlanta, which is a literal swing state at this point, at least because there's so much corruption. It is. It wouldn't be otherwise, I don't think. It's pretty red, obviously, otherwise. But because of Atlanta, it is now a swing state. Pretty crazy. And then, let's see, Scottish doctor and PhD nutritionist win libel case against British media for being labeled as murderers by exposing dangerous cholesterol-lowering drugs. Yeah, how dare they do that? Let's see what drugs they're talking about. That's, of course. Yeah, that's bad news. Man wakes up on operating table. We mentioned this one earlier several times as doctors were harvesting his organs. And then the last one before we reach the end of the new articles, distinguishing true prophets from false prophets in these evil modern times. True prophets of God. So those are the articles on vaccine impact. The top stories on there that we didn't cover or that have been published since last week. And then I was joking with Mr. Dane that I'm going to have to change my name, I guess. As you guys see or hear the most recent version of Geoengineering Watch Global Alert News from yesterday, well, it's called Geoengineering with Diamond Dust. I told him I guess I'm going to have to change my name to Doug Diamond Dust. 3D. Anyway, he thought that was funny. Science Advisor, Geoengineering in the Sky with Diamonds. Seriously? From Yahoo News, high levels of ultrafine particles in the atmosphere over long periods of time are significantly associated with increased non-accidental deaths, particularly from cardiovascular and respiratory diseases. Unfortunately, official air quality testing and reporting doesn't include nanoparticles. The primary particle size called for in climate engineering patents and showing up in lab test samples. Is the toxic atmospheric particle saturation also causing unquantifiable damage to our biosphere as a whole? Short answer, yes. Scientists warn of societal collapse on Earth with worsening climate situation. Can climate engineering and other forms of human damage to the planet be stopped in time to make a difference? Latest installment of Global Alert News is below. So that is this right here. So he talks about geoengineering with diamond dust. And I was thinking to myself, yes, well, surely it's cubic zirconias, not actual real diamonds. Because they wouldn't waste real diamonds, would they? I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. So geoengineeringwatch.org on that article and audio that's available. And then the scheduled weather for this week, 6 to 10 day outlook starting November 2 through the 6th. Looks like it's going to be warm, above average, at least in the east. And the word above is literally sitting on my house. So that is, I guess it's going to warm up here. It's been warmer in the last day or so, but it was cool leading up to the last day or so. But now it's gotten warm again. Is that an Indian summer or is it just geoengineering? I don't know. Maybe both. Anyways, it's going to be cooler out west and below normal out there in some places. Interesting that the near normal little sliver is seems like it's always getting smaller. There's no normal anymore. So that is the 6 to 10 day scheduled weather outlook. And then Israel 365 News, thought this one was funny because they're using the word gaslight. Israel 365 News says Christianity Today gaslights Israel 1 year after the October 7th terrorist attack. And it was a terrorist attack, I'll give you that, yes. But they're not telling the whole story. They never do because they are the ones that like to gaslight as to what actually happened. But no, they're blaming the Christianity Today paper, I guess, or whatever it is, website. It says, on the first anniversary of the most horrific attacks on Jews since Hitler's Holocaust, so here we go again, Hitler again, one would expect Christianity Today to provide its over 2.2 million online and print subscribers at least one article about October 7th attack on Israel that acknowledged the 1,200 murder victims and 251 taken hostage and the thousands injured by Hamas terrorists. Oh, but let me add a sidebar. But they don't want you to know about, of the 1,200 murder victims, probably at least half of those were killed by the IDF themselves, and because of a stand down that lasted for at least 7 hours, where they let Hamas come in and raid and kill and rape and murder and do everything they wanted. They didn't really mention that in this article. And they also didn't really mention that, yes, they have all of the hostages supposedly, which they may, I don't know, and they had all these people injured. But the stand down was for hours, many hours, 7 hours at least. And the other little fact that they don't want you to know is that of the at least 40,000 people that they've killed in Gaza as a result of all of this, that the real numbers are more like 200,000 and maybe more, because there's still bodies in the rubble that they haven't even been able to get to. But no, it's Christianity Today that's gaslighting, not Israel 365 News. So enough said on that. Anyway, I just thought that was utterly ridiculous. Anyways, they'll only tell you about the story, the part that they want you to know about. Modern day voyages of the Ark of the Covenant. I saw this article. Anything about the Ark always catches my eye. This was on Gateway Pundit earlier today. Over 3 years ago, a group of faithful volunteers embarked on a mission as ancient as time itself to recreate the Ark of the Covenant. Why would you want to do that? Well, anyway, they did. A sacred vessel forged in fire and spirit, whose echoes have reverberated across millennia. This journey began with the humble donation of a golden artifact from the first temple, inscribed with the timeless words consecrated by God. It was the seed of faith planted, a calling that demanded both the mastery of their hands and the devotion of their souls. Sourcing the materials proved to be a monumental challenge. The acacia wood mentioned in the Torah had been found in sufficient quantity and durable condition, while over 7 pounds of pure gold, some from Egyptian idols, needed to be refined, cast, and hammered. Every grain of gold was prepared with intent and reverence, every detail crafted with an eye toward the divine. The group sought to recreate the ark, not as a mere object, but as a symbol of the covenant between God and his people, a bridge between heaven and earth. So, it talks about the construction of this. So they literally tried to recreate the Ark of the Covenant. There's the coverings and all of that. So this gives you a detailed description as to how they did it. And it's pretty amazing, actually, that they did do that. But my whole point here is why? Why would you do this? The real one exists. And we are probably on the precipice of seeing the real one, or at least knowing about the real one. I think that will be unlocked very soon. It's in Jerusalem already. It's in Zedekiah's cave. It's been known. It was discovered in the 80s. It's been known about for a long time, decades. It's just that they can't touch it. No one can touch it. So, yeah, I've heard that too, Kathy. Trump has a gold facsimile of the Ark in his house, I hear. Yeah, and why? I don't know why one would want that. But anyways, so there it is. There's all of the details as to what it took to create it. This is the result of it. Now, this website, Gateway Pundit, they do have a lot of really good articles, but they are super pro-Israel. So just keep that in mind when you look at this. This is probably why they're reporting on this. I'm not really sure who they think they're going to fool, because it's not the real one. And it's not exactly how, I mean, it is kind of how it's described, I guess, in the Torah. They had to build it that way, but it's slightly different as far as the way it's described in the Ron Wyatt Chronicles, the various stories that he's talked about. So anyways, there it is. Thought that was kind of cool. It's interesting story, interesting that they're bothering to build one, but the actual real one exists. The real one on earth exists, and the real one in heaven is the real one, the real one, because the one on earth was the one fashioned after the one that's in heaven, in the throne room. So that is because when Jesus ascended after his resurrection, after his crucifixion, it is the reason that he wouldn't allow Mary or anyone to touch him before he ascended to the Father, was because he had to go provide his blood on the ark that sits in the throne room of God. That's why no one could touch him. You ever heard that before? That's why no one could touch him. He had to go and do that to make his sacrifice of his blood, put it on the Ark of the Covenant in the throne room of God, And then when he came back down, after doing that, then he would allow people to touch him. And remember the story where Thomas put his fingers through the holes in Jesus' hands. So it makes one wonder, doesn't it? So yes, it's all crazy, but it's all true. I know. Anyway, well, that's all the articles I had for you guys tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast. We have what? Well, first of all, sign up on Substack, and I do have my other link up there for Subscribestar, although I don't think it's actually running yet. It's been a week, and it's still... Let me refresh. Nope, it's still not operational. So you have a big yellow box here if you want to subscribe to what I'm doing. I would say, first and foremost, go to my Substack. That is the page that looks a lot like this, because it is this page, diamonddisc.substack.com. And you can put your email address in there and subscribe. And if you want to make any financial contributions monthly or just a one-time, you can do that through this site as well. And I'm also setting up Subscribestar so that will give people other options. And I set this profile. I signed up for the profile about a week ago now. I guess it's been over a week now. And there's still a yellow box on my profile because it says it's under review. Please be aware, due to an extremely high volume of recent submitted profiles, the approval process will take longer than normal. Yeah, well, I've done this for other clients multiple times, and usually profiles are approved on there within 2 days, I would say at most. And that's what I was hoping for, but it's been a week and it's still sitting there. So if you want to contribute on Subscribestar, you'll have to wait a little bit longer. But thank you in advance for those of you who might sign up on there. There will be options from $5 a month to $10 to $20 to $25 and up. So there's a way there, a mechanism that will be in place very soon. If you guys want to donate to what I'm doing, I really appreciate it. It's requiring all kinds of my time to put these shows together every week. So I really appreciate you guys helping me out, because otherwise it's just literally time and expenses are coming out of my pocket. So, which I don't mind doing, but you reach a point where you're just spending all your time and effort and a lot of your own money doing it. And if you have other people that will contribute and help pay for that, that is really, really nice, really helpful, and definitely a blessing. So let me see what you guys are saying here. Let me go back to the Substack page just to kind of get away from this. If you type in your email address and hit subscribe, you get some options as far as how you could contribute. Or if you don't want to contribute, that's fine. The other option is just click on no thanks. You don't even have to put your email address in. You can access the page here, and the most recent story, the main one here that I've done, is dead center here in the middle of the page, and then the other recent ones are over on the left. So you can kind of look at it that way. Also, it's got all of my links here as well, Diamond Report links for all the different platforms I'm on. So they are there. And then this was last week's show, Transhuman Antichrist, ? That was the show from last week, and this top one here was all of the links. So if you click it, you'll have all the links from last week's show, all the articles I talked about in the videos and stuff like that. And then this other one, the secondary one here that looks the same, is actually just the audio podcast of last week's show. So that's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. You can listen to it on Substack or on those other places. So that is where those things are. And then this is the store. It's another option. People might want to go grab a hat or a t-shirt or something. There's a good way to contribute. It's another good way to contribute to what I'm doing here. So I really appreciate that. Shop.thediamond.report. The address is in the box in the upper right corner up there. So you'll see that. And then make sure you follow on Twitter. I thought this was kind of funny. This is something I retweeted here. Now, what was that she said about Hitler? And you can see, I'll just play it in the background. You can see how old Kamala here is doing her best Hitler impersonation. And yet she's out there calling the Donald Hitler. I've never seen Donald do the things that she's doing. But maybe he has. I don't know. I've just not noticed it. Yep. So anyways, let's see what else we have here. These are some of the more recent things that I've retweeted or posted on here. Oh, this is Elon Musk saying, yep, it would be a 3-hour train wreck if Kamala were to appear on Rogan. Yep. This is kind of funny. This is something that Trump mentioned on the Rogan podcast, that they loved him on The View, the TV show that no one watches. The View. There he is going on The View. And now they're all his mortal enemies. They all hate him with everything they got. But look how much they loved him at first. This is before he ran for president. So this is probably just when he was contributing funds to Democrats in general and stuff before he was actually president. So you can see he wasn't so bad then, but now that he's a Republican, quote unquote, and wants to save the world from the globalists, quote unquote, he's the worst thing ever. Imagine that. Says the party that says men can get pregnant wants to control disinformation on the internet. Something to think about. I thought this was good. Thomas Massie, who's one of the few leaders in the House, I think, that is worth anything. And I think he's a big Israel supporter, so I shouldn't even say that. But he's right about this. He says, "Where's the lie?" Glenn Greenwald posted, "The U.S. has no functional president and has not had one for months, and it's barely noticeable and barely matters because there's a permanent, unelected machine that runs the government." And Thomas Massie just retweeted it and said, "Where's the lie?" There's no lie. That's what's happening. Okay, here is the 300,000. I said 100,000 earlier because that's what the article said. 300,000 British protesters showed up to support Tommy Robinson in the UK. And nothing but crickets on mainstream media. They don't want you to know. So there you go. Lots of people are upset about what's happening in the UK. I think that's good. But I also think that is the home of the coming Antichrist. Yeah. And then here's a full podcast if you guys want to see the Trump Rogan interview. So pretty wild. It was worth listening to, I think. Fast forward the stuff about the Fight Club stuff, the whatever it's called, UFC or whatever. I was kind of bored with that, but the rest of it was pretty good. 30,000 people were mad as Hades once Beyonce left the Kamala rally without performing. Total bait and switch operation. So yeah, Kamala Harris has Beyonce show up at her rally, I guess, at least to get probably quite a few people to show up at her rally too. But she just shows up and gives her a hug and talks about the whole political world a little bit. Talks about the election and leaves. She's done. She's out. No singing. None of that. Kind of funny. But people didn't like that too much. And then, let's see. Bobby Kennedy, I guess, reposted the Trump interview and Rogan conversation as well. California's elections are so rigged that they're mailing ballots to people in other states who left California years ago. Not even mail forwarding. Straight up sending California state ballots across the U.S. This one was sent to me by a follower. This is DC Drano. By a follower in Tennessee. How is this legal? Well, I used to live in California, but I didn't get one. But this is addressed to somebody in Nashville. But it wasn't me. I didn't do it. Although I would have sent it to him if I would have got one, but I didn't. I guess I've been off the voter rolls too long in California. Anyways, lots of fun and exciting stuff over here. Dr. Jane Ruby says, "Okay, riddle me this. How do you explain the disparity in our looks by age when at 76 she's only 6 years older than me?" This is Hillary and this is Dr. Jane Ruby, and somebody posted in there, "Yeah, well, she's a demon." Here's Tommy Robinson, sent to prison. So I retweeted that. So there's some interesting things on here for sure. So feel free to follow along on Twitter. I would certainly appreciate it. No, it doesn't cost you anything, and thank you for doing that if you do. And if you don't, I guess go buy a shirt or go do something like that. Be useful. Be productive. I would certainly appreciate that. No, I'm just joking, but I really would appreciate the help, the support. I thank you guys. And for those who are helping, definitely thank you guys very much for that. means the world to me for sure. So here is the YouTube channel, Take It to the Lord in Prayer on YouTube. And then also on Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon, I am Diamond Disc. Or you could just do a search for the Diamond Report. I suppose it'll come up that way too. And then Band. This is the Band group. And Emily put the link in chat in both Rumble and on YouTube. So definitely join that if you want. And again, totally free. And it's a good way to stay in touch with what I'm doing and with what everybody in chat. Well, a lot of the people in chat are in there as well. And it's not a dating site. I will say that again. I mentioned that last week. It's not a dating site. But feel free to join that. And let me see what you guys are saying before we wrap it up for the night. We're going long tonight, aren't we? I gave you my thoughts on the Civil War if Trump wins. I think they will try and gin up a civil war no matter who wins. But I don't see them allowing Trump to get in there. I really don't. But who knows? I mean, anything could happen. If it's God's will, then it will happen. I'll just put it that way. Talking about the Ark of the Covenant. Yep, and Ron Wyatt. The Ron Wyatt video is amazing. Yeah. His work is amazing. I mean, it really is. I've tried to take what small spotlight I can put on it and do whatever I can to help it, because I mean he already has a pretty big following. Of course, Ron passed away a long time ago now, but there's a lot of people that follow his work, but there's still a lot of people that don't know anything about it, never heard of him, which is amazing to me. But to me, Ron Wyatt is the real deal, and everything that he says that he found, I believe he really did find. And I mean, I've looked at it. I've spent many hours researching the stuff that he has talked about over the years before he passed away in 1999, I think it was. And I really find that I feel like God purposely gave him that information and let him find those things so that people in the end times, of which he was right on the precipice of being there himself, but people in the end times would talk about his findings and be pointed straight back to God, which is what he intended. So that's kind of where I'm at with the whole Ron Wyatt thing. I really think that he was a one of a kind guy who really only sought Jesus and sought God. And I really felt like he did the Lord's work for real. All right, let's see. Episode 8 that had me bawling my eyes out, Emily said. I don't know if you mean episode 8 of End Times Dates, perhaps. Yeah, and thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. End Times Dates 4 and 8 are really geared toward the Ron Wyatt story. So if you guys haven't seen those, maybe go watch those. Made them several years ago now, 2019, 2020. So I saw 11:11, and now I'm seeing 1:11 on the clock. So I'm just proving to you guys I'm not making this stuff up. I see 11:11 at least twice a day usually. Sometimes I see it more times than that because I usually have at least one clock in my house that's like wrong. And even when I look at the wrong clock, it'll say 11:11. It's really weird. So that's how you get more than twice in a day. Yeah, I'm not joking. I guess I don't really see anything else offhand. If I do, we'll address it in band, I suppose. That's a good way to do it. Doug, J. Vela asked me a while ago if you're still with Anthony and Kathleen. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm still working with them. Yep. Still working with Anthony and Kathleen, and in touch with them very frequently. Yep. Still working with Mr. Dane. Still working with Richard as well, although his health isn't good. Richard's health is not doing well, although he's maintaining. He's still hanging in there. We do one show a week. I call it the Doctor's Show, but it's every Monday. We do a live stream. Dr. Cousins and Dr. Sachs, Richard Sachs. But Richard's health hasn't been good really in the last 2 years or so. But that is Monday. You can find it on LostChurchRadio.com. That show is Mondays at 1:30 Central Time. So it's right smack in the middle of the afternoon. It usually happens right when I'm in the middle of editing this show from the night before. So I have to stop what I'm doing and do the Doctor's Show and then go back to editing my show. That's usually what happens on Mondays. So anyway, 2:12 in the morning where Susan is. Wow, thank you so much for staying up so late, you East Coasters, you Eastern time zone folks. You know who you are. I really appreciate that. It's late here as well, so I'm gonna have to call tonight and get some rest myself because about ready to crash. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging in there with me. The people out west, it's not nearly as late out there, so. But in either case, thank you guys for hanging in there with me tonight. It's been a long broadcast, but we'll get this one posted as soon as possible. Hope you guys have a blessed week. We will do another broadcast before the election, which will be next Sunday, which will be the 3rd? So the 3rd before the 5th, the election on the 5th. We may do a special election night broadcast. I'm not real sure yet. So I will let you know that either on Substack or maybe just next weekend we'll talk about it perhaps. But we'll figure it out, and I hope you guys have a blessed week this week, and remember to keep your family close to you and stay even closer to God, stay even closer to Jesus. Keep the Lord right there with you because, man, this world is changing fast. And I believe we are in the end times. I think we've proven that beyond really any reasonable doubt. Not me, but I'm just saying in general, I think all of us that are gathered here tonight pretty much can sense that. So I feel like that's exactly what's going on. I know you guys would concur. So blessings to you all, and I hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk again next week. Love you all, and we'll see you then.